Hello and welcome to the Movie Bunker podcast. It's me, Chris.
And me, Matt.
Well,
So I was distracted then. I was reading bad reviews.
Professional as always. As well as when we have a guest, it all goes wrong for Matt. He's always sort of a bit confused. But we've got a friend of the podcast back again, Matthew. It's Amon Warmann. Welcome to the podcast again, Amon.
Hello. How you all doing?
We're bearing up. What week is this of lockdown? Does anyone know?
Nope.
I've stopped even calling days of the week. Everything's basically feels like a Sunday. So you just walk around going,
pretty
Sunday.
much.
It's like a hot Christmas.
Yeah. Amon, you've come on with a blinder again. What's the movie you've chosen today?
I've chosen Man on Fire.
Here's the trailer.
There were 24 kidnappings in Mexico City in the last 6 days. Have you protected a lot of children before, Mr. Creasy?
I don't know. Bodyguards gotta be close to people. You know, I'm no good at that.
You're the silent type. People are gonna appreciate that.
16 years of military experience, extensive counter-terrorism work.
What happened to your hand?
It's birth defect.
No, it's not.
No more questions. That's it. Period. You hear me?
Peter just wants to be friends.
I regret that your profession needs to exist.
So do I, Marjorie.
He's like a bear.
Yeah?
Big, sad bear. Good things happen too, Creasy.
Yeah? Like what?
Like meeting me. Creasy, you're smiling.
Peter! Peter! Run!
What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna go get her. Anyone who gets in my way, anybody who profited from it, anybody who opens their eyes at me, I'm gonna kill him.
Tell me about Creasy. I'd like to understand him.
A man can be an artist in anything.
It depends on how good he is at it.
Creasy's art is dead. He's about to paint his masterpiece.
So yeah, Man on Fire, 2004. Let's go through a quick plot synopsis. So in Mexico City, a former CIA operative swears vengeance on those who commit unspeakable acts against the family he was hired to protect. Cast-wise, it's pretty phenomenal. And there's some great names in here. Denzel Washington, obviously, we've mentioned. Dakota Fanning, Christopher Walken. Is it Rada Mitchell? I don't know if I'm pronouncing her first name correctly, but is it Rada?
I think you got it right.
And there are others, and we can maybe touch upon some of those later on. But yeah, cast-wise, it's pretty phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah, when you pinged me and told me that Eamon had picked this film, I'm like, we can't do that. That's not for our podcast. we pick films that have been, derided critically. And then you had to actually prove to me that that this wasn't reviewed well, especially on Rotten Tomatoes, where it's got, was it 38%, 39%?
39%, yeah, which is a bit of a splatter. In terms of a sort of IMDb score, which it fares much better. You've got a pretty decent 7.7, which is nowhere near the Bunker in terms of rating. It has some great moments in it and some real great performances. What's your kind of take on Denzel Washington in this role, Amon?
He's fantastic, as he always is. Denzel Washington is my favorite actor of all time, and he knocks it out of the park again. We get different flavors of Denzel in this. The first hour, the swagger that you typically associate with Denzel is not there because the character is broken. Denzel is very good at playing messy characters, and that's the hour when he's drifting towards alcoholism, when he's almost dead-eyed, when he's just sort of kind of given up on life, is beautifully performed. And then when Peter, the girl, starts to sort of coax his character, Creasy, out of his shell, that modulation to, getting a new lease on life is beautifully played as well. And then when the movie and the kidnapping happens, then sort of the swagger and you get that typical I won't say typical, but a Denzel performance that uses more of his sort of Denzelishness, for want of a better word, in a big way. And that comes through in a really cool way. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, he does nuance very well. And I think with Denzel Washington, everything's under the surface, it feels like. He's incredibly still, but you can just feel all that bubbling tension going on underneath. And when even when the most sort of dramatic circumstances that he's in, he keeps a level head. And you see bits and pieces of him in this movie where he loses a little bit of control, especially in like the drinking moments there, where you can see that tension and that emotion bubbling over when he's incredibly drunk. But other than that, he's still, isn't he? He's so kind of cool.
Yeah, the cool fact that Denzel definitely brings that. Just, even in the scenes with Peter, when he's sort of, beginning to come out of his shell, even that is cool to a point, because I'm not watching it. I'm like, if Denzel is your swimming coach, you have no choice to not only get better at swimming, but to become an Olympian level swimmer. Because some of the training advice that he gives is like, it's just so cool. Like, the gunshot holds no fear, say it. The gunshot holds no fear, say it. I need Denzel to be my life coach, is basically what I'm saying.
You need him in
the only issue I had with those scenes was that the fact he never actually used a gun.
His voice is the only thing he needs.
Well, two bricks.
Yeah, that's it. 2 bricks.
But Denzel has also mastered the art form of being threatening without raising his voice, and he does it. He does it. He's done it a lot in a lot of films. He does it. Does it here as well. And every time he does it, it's just so cool. Like that scene when he puts the bomb in the guy's butt. In that sequence, I think he has a line where he says like, "We've got all the time in the world. You don't, I do." And the way he says it's cool.
Yeah, it's very good.
There's always that factor when it comes to Denzel. It's really entertaining to watch.
I like the way that they didn't really hammer his previous, because clearly he's a man with a background, right? But it's never forced down your throat. You don't get any sort of flashbacks. There's no explanation of like scars on his hands, or even any sort of direct reference to what he's been in the past. I mean, I think the only real clue you get is his CV at the front, which is kind of flashy across the scene. You see some military references in there, but the rest of his history up until the point the film starts is, until the end, throughout the whole entire film, it's a complete mystery.
It's always better that way. I think another film which does that, which makes an excellent job of that to a better degree than this film, actually, I would say, is John Wick.
Yes.
John Wick, don't sort of know all the details, but you know just enough, and you know that the guy is feared to a level which is just it's almost supernatural, and it helps that film no end. That's another film I love.
The roles that Denzel Washington plays as Creasy and Christopher Walken, Paul Rayburn, is kind of like his what is he to him? I'm trying to figure out. Is he kind of like a mentor, isn't he? A mentor, middleman, sort of organized?
I wouldn't say mentor. I'd say more friend and arms dealer. Because he's the guy Creasy comes to when he needs the weapons.
There's a chance, like in the past, they've either worked together or it was his commanding.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely work together. That immortal line about masterpiece. A man can be an artist in anything. That line, and it's so funny. Like in another film said by another actor, that line comes across as overly cheesy and is quickly forgotten, and we never really speak of or think of that scene ever again. In this film, said by Christopher Walken, it's the most memorable line of the film. It's one of the most memorable lines in the past 20 years of film, and it's just instantly iconic. And I freaking love it.
He's going to paint his masterpiece, isn't it? Is the kind of ending. Yeah. The thing I was going to say.
And then at the end, it says, "I have nothing else to say," and that is the last line. That's the last time you see Christopher Walken in the entire film. It's great.
It's like a mic drop moment.
Yeah. It really is.
my favourite line in the film though is when he's got the father sat there and he just kind of shouts in and just sort of like, you move, you make one sound and I'll snatch the life right out of you. Oh, that sounds horrible, doesn't it? I'm not moving.
And again, that's what I'm saying. But he puts the fear of God into you. he's just mastered that art. It's fantastic.
The relationship between Christopher Walken and Denzel Washington on screen, you can tell that they've obviously I don't know if they've worked together before, but they're just their chemistry. They're obviously similar kind of age, I guess. But the way they kind of just hold the camera, I know potentially some of the scenes they did together were improvised slightly, which definitely comes through. It looks really natural. But I could definitely sit and watch them for 90 minutes, just stood around a barbecue, licking their fingers and a finger lick off.
Oh, that was horrible. That was nasty.
They were trying to out-lick each other at one point.
He's like, what are you doing? The food is gone. It's past.
Hey, I lick my lips at barbecues too. Leave the man alone. But
finger licking good.
Like, you're absolutely right about the naturalness. Like that scene where Creasy's tried to kill himself and the bullet has failed, and he calls up Christopher Walken. The broken sentences add to that feeling of ad-libbing, of naturalness, and that just, accentuates the friendship between those two men even more. I could say the same thing about the relationship between Creasy and Peter. The naturalness there is fantastic. That scene they have in the dining room table, Peter's Creasy smile. It's just great. And again, this is a revenge film. It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes long or something like that. The revenge plot doesn't kick in until an hour in, and the patience the film shows to do that pays off, because by the time she is kidnapped, because you've learned about those characters, because you've really been won over by those characters, you are ready for blood. We've seen this type of film before, but a lot of these types of films don't take the time to do that, which is why most other films are not as good as this film.
Dakota is very good in this as well, and I don't know how old she's supposed to be in the film, but she does act. She's older than her years, essentially, on screen, is what I'm trying to say. She's very, very mature, and I know, she's been given a script essentially to read, but I think, maybe in another child actor's hands, it might have come across a little bit too contrived and a bit cheesy. But she delivers.
I don't think there's been a better child actor than Dakota Fanning.
But yeah, I can say she's great. And I think in terms of what I read on IMDb today, I've done a lot of IMDb research, by the way. But what I read today is that he stayed in character a lot on set, Denzel Washington. And so I think some of those scenes they played together seem so natural, because I think he was doing the Creasy thing whilst they were just chilling out. And I think that comes across on screen quite nicely.
I actually found the first half of the film more enjoyable than the second half, which surprised me, because I'm a bit of an action hound at the best of times. But once it sort of flipped and it just went into sort of revenge mode, I was like, oh, kind of missed the development. I also missed being able to blink, because after she goes disappearing, the amount of cutscenes and weird camera angles and flickers and stuff just went mental for a while there.
Yeah, the different styles you get once the kidnapping happens serve the character, because it really puts you in Creasy's headspace. I think at the beginning of the film as well, you get a bit of that sort of crazy style, because Creasy again he's out of it, he's broken.
Yeah,
and then when as he starts to come out of his shell and sort of become a human again, you get less of that. Then when it flips again, it gets crazy again, because it puts you in the mind space. Even the way the subtitles come up on screen, how they sort of are introduced to the film, I like that works for me as well. All the different sort of stylistic flourishes, I really enjoy it. From what I gather from the little sort of reviews that I have read, very begrudgingly, because I still can't believe 39%. One of the things people were criticizing was the style, but it really, really worked for me.
Yeah, that's the main issue I think most of the critics had. But it does let us have, ultimately, what I love in movies is a tool-up montage.
You're talking about war. You're goddamn right I'm talking about war.
Give
me a rocket launcher. Give me grenades. Give me guns. I'm going to stick a rocket launcher I'm going to stick a rocket launcher out the window in broad daylight to hit another kid.
Everyone
I
loves
I loved how calm that old couple was that he did the house for. They're like, this isn't the way to deal with things. And they're like, he's like, sod off. I've got a rocket launcher. I don't care what you've got to say. It's going out
I believe the very cool line is, forgiveness is between them and God. It's my job to arrange the meeting, which is awesome. I was talking about this film with Chris Hewitt the other day, and he was like saying, apart from that masterpiece line, there's no memorable lines. I was like, what Man on Fire film are you talking about?
Well, there is two, isn't there? Because this is actually a remake of a 1980-something movie with Scott Glenn in it. So and I didn't realise that. So, because when I was flicking through on Amazon to get this up, both of them come up. And then I was suddenly in a whole world of like, oh, shit. Because we do bad films, and the original film was only like a 2-3 star. Like maybe that's the one he meant we should have watched. And we all sat around watching Denzel Washington nail it, and it's like, no, it's the Scott Glenn one. What are you doing?
It's been a very different podcast right there.
If we want to just delve into the reasons again why, I mean, this movie didn't fare so well, and Matt, what do you think about the second half of the movie? Are you on the fence in terms of it all, or because, I mean, it's fresh in my mind. I watched it last night, so it's very clear, and I think it influenced my night's sleep as well in places.
There's kind of two ways of thinking about that second half of the film. The first is that it is slightly jarring and confusing because it has got a lot of the cuts. The other thing is that, like Amon says, it really does put you in his state of mind, because the more hectic it is at the parts where he's out of control. So we get this mirrored in the first half of the film when he gets really drunk and he's about to kill himself. We see lots of snap cuts and the bad with the weird angles and the judders and stuff. Then it calms down, and I think this is kind of what the jar is. It calms down as he kind of like as Dakota Fanning's character sort of brings him out, and he starts to sort of like, live and maybe calm down the drinking a bit. Although that seems to happen over about 3 days. And then obviously once she gets kidnapped and then the kidnapping goes wrong and he believes her to be dead, then it's all just like, and you're like, oh God. But it follows him. It follows how he's feeling. So it's entirely, the whole film is from his point of view and from his mental state, which is why it has that kind of jar to it, because that's what's happened to him. He's been jarred, twice. He's been jarred out of kind of suicidal depression, and then he's jarred back into that world where he doesn't care for his own life anymore. He just wants horrible instant revenge. Well,
he's definitely suffering from like severe PSD from a previous role or job and everything, and trying to reintegrate into society. Looks at Christopher Walken, the character Paul Rayburn, sees this life that he hasn't got. He's got a kid, he's got a beautiful wife and kids and a family and an estate and everything. And he's quite powerful in his circle. And Denzel's broken completely, isn't he? He's kind of, and it's like a redemption in a way. Do you get the critic response on that? And do you see kind of how it may have lost the attention of the viewer potentially?
I don't, because even if the stylistic flourishes don't work for you, by that point, the investment in the characters and what the characters are trying to do has been won. At least it was for me. So even if the stylistic stuff isn't working for you, the potency of the plot stuff and the character stuff should carry you through, I would have thought. I know that the other major criticism was that it was too violent. And again, I don't get that, because for the same reason. They've taken the time to really make you invest in these characters. So by that point, you love Peter just as much as Creasy does. So, of course, when she is taken from him and when he is shut up the way he is, and knowing what the kidnappers are, about and what they say that they have done, you want that violence. You want these guys to pay in the worst way. So, and I don't understand the sort of that it's too violent, they're taking it, too far. It's not like, torture porn. It's violence to a point. And for me, it's, entertaining to watch. So, yeah, the major criticisms of this film at the time, I don't get it. The 39% Rotten Tomatoes, I mean, a curse on every negative critic houses because it's just ridiculous to me.
Do we think in the
Thankfully,
16 years that's happened since then, we've seen so much more violence on the screen that like
Oh,
we
yes.
look back at this now and go, he should have done more to that guy.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think, while, the critical reception at the time was not good, history has proven that this movie stands the test of time. And I think if you ask critics today what they think of Man on Fire, you'll get a very different response.
This film, for me, when I was watching it, reminded me of a few other movies of similar. And I'm trying to remember the name of the movie that's come out recently, the Netflix Chris Hemsworth film.
Oh, Extraction.
Yeah.
There was a bit in that, and I don't know whether I've seen Man on Fire years ago, and I was expecting to see a scene with Dakota's character swimming again at the end, and seeing a flash of him at the poolside. But then I kind of had remembered that in my head as being the ending, or like an ending. And I was waiting for the scene. I even waited to the end of the credits. Was there a post-credit scene that I had not remembered? And it wasn't. I was just basically getting two movies very far apart in terms of time, completely mixed up, because a lot of that narrative is there. Chris Hemsworth's character in that has got like a very sad past. He's obviously got a lot of issues, warms up to this kid, and there's the swimming thing, and is he dead or isn't he dead? And I'd love for Creasy not to be dead, but he is, isn't he?
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've you're not the first person to liken Extraction to Man on Fire, but I think that is being very generous. I applaud Extraction for the directional ambition to pull off that one-er. It was very impressive to watch. But other than that, I've got issues with that. One, the white saviorism of it all is an issue for me. And I like Chris Hemsworth. I think he's a great actor. I think Thor coming to Wakanda in Infinity War is the greatest scene in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love it to death.
Yeah.
But Hemsworth, let's not get it twisted. He's no Denzel Washington.
No.
So there's that too.
And
but,
talking of violence, right? It's so much more violent, that film.
Infinity War.
It's quite brutal. That opening kind of thing where he goes into the room and starts battering people to death. That's more violent than anything on Man on Fire, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll give you that. But I mean, you brought up the ending there. The ending to Man on Fire always makes me cry. It just gets me right in the feels, man. And yeah, there was actually an alternate ending, which is online, which had Creasy walking into the main bad guy's home and blowing himself up. But I'm really happy I went with it instead. You really, get the feels, and again, it underlines that relationship between Peter and Creasy in a really big way. They are aping the Gladiator score a little bit, but I will allow it because it's so beautifully done. The Gladiator is my favorite score of all time. I'm a bit of a film score nerd, and that score, I think, from top to bottom, is just sensational.
I'm basically dead on the inside, and I felt something when we saw Dakota Fanning at the end. I was just like,
I got to shock you. I cried twice.
Twice?
No, yeah. Oh, yeah. Now listen, I cried when she won the race in the swimming race.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Because I was, like Amon said, I was invested in that relationship, and
that 3-day-old relationship.
Yeah, I may have had a gin and tonic.
Bit of mother's ruin.
Don't make excuses. We're all friends here. Banter's a good thing.
I had a weep, and I definitely had another weep, Matthew, at the end when he's in the car and you just think,
please,
I think one thing though I would say is that Radha Mitchell, who plays the mother, Lisa Ramos, I think she really underplays that reunion. And I was a bit disappointed in that, because I think if you had discovered that your daughter was alive after believing she had been horrifically killed, you'd be absolutely hysterical And she really underplays it to the point where it's just like, oh, gives a hug. And that took me out of it.
What you been up to?
Where you been?
Look how dirty your clothes are.
that she really underplayed it. And I would have been a completely hysterical mess. And but yeah, that's just a comment.
I like the end. I like the end. I like the stillness of it all. It was nice. I like the fact there was no shootout. There was literally no violence at the end there. Just somebody walking, sitting in a car, and have a bit of a snooze.
It's bleak, isn't it? It's bleak. Okay.
I just wanted to point out one thing that annoyed me with the film, because we're about balance, right? So some bad thing is during the kind of like kidnapping, phoning up sequence. They're in the house and they've got like everyone set up there to sort of trace calls and do whatnot. Is that there's like a large zebra in the background, and some fuckers put Post-it notes on it.
I noticed the zebra. Yeah,
it's like I need to put this somewhere. Oh, that'll do. I'm just gonna put this in the background as a Post-it note. And what's on those notes? Just what are they doing? What are they writing down?
They're notes that police
will
never
know.
Well, you will know if you freeze frame it and enhance. You'll be able to read what's on those notes.
It's not Blade Runner.
Let's go to Twitter. We all agree this film is not.
It doesn't.
It's not a bunker movie. No. There's a couple of people on Twitter have commented. So Liam Dempsey of Spotlight Podcast came and said, "I vastly prefer the first half, which is some genuinely great focused character development leading up to the kidnapping, to the second half of Creasy painting his so-called masterpiece of shoving bums up blokes'
So-called?
Lee Hallam on Twitter said, Creasy doesn't die as he becomes Robert McCall. We can agree. Yeah. Well, let's hope so. That's what we're saying. Phil T. Flippers on Twitter said, I'm pretty sure Casey doesn't die in the car at the end. He just falls asleep out of boredom. Oh, come on.
What is this guy's name?
He then says, I'd have preferred if the film was just Creasy training the girl for the swimming competition. Well, yeah, we would have all seen that movie as well. He could have done that film too.
What most of those critical things show is it's just how strong that first half of the film is. Just because they didn't prefer the second half as much doesn't mean it wasn't strong. So what they had was a really good first half and a really good second half. They slightly preferred the first half more.
Darren Cooper, this is the last one. Darren Cooper on Twitter says, this shouldn't be anywhere near the bunker, which is a good way to end it.
If we were to draw a graph of my process, of my method, something like this. Sir Ian, action. Wizard, you shall not pass! Cut! Sir Ian.
Okay, Amon, thanks again for coming on, man. It's been brilliant. This film's been a joy to watch again, as I said. Amon, where can we hear you or see you next?
I am on Twitter at @Warmann. Where can you hear me next? I am on TalkSport Radio every week talking about movies and now TV shows. So you can find that. And I will be in the forthcoming issue of Empire Magazine, which will be released in a couple of weeks. Got a few bits and bobs in that, which will hopefully make for a fun read.
Excellent. We look forward to reading that. If you like the podcast and you're a regular listener and you haven't yet rated, subscribed, or downloaded the back catalogue, because it's always good to revisit those episodes and listen to them again. Write a review, leave a comments wherever you can on social media as well. The website address, Matthew, you like doing that bit?
www.moviebunkerpodcast.com.
Oh, yes, brilliant. So until next time, see you with another bunker movie. Bunker out, everyone. Say goodbye, Amon.
Peace.